Well, so you'll see we're outside of the meadow house, and there's still a lot of construction material here because we are still in the process of renovating this building. It's nowhere near done. There's been some delays and just a lot of things going on. But one of the things that we're not going to delay is that we're going to start making this house feel more like a home. And a great way to do that is obviously add decor both inside and outside. And one of the things that I got very early on when we were discussing kind of the color palette here are these metal urns. And I really like them for the fact that they look fairly compelling. I like the antiqued look. What I don't really care for them is that they have these seams here. So they kind of look a little fakeish from that perspective. But I really like the color. It matches the gazebo that we're actually putting in upstairs. And I think that the kind of grayish blue slate colors kind of play nicely with the blue greens of the paint and also the plantings. And also this orange rusty color really plays in well with the cedar tones. So I like this for potential, kind of entry plants here. And I found this plant. This I thought was really lovely. This is a heucherella. So this is a heuchera/tiarella. So they're in the same family, and it's just like two genus of plants actually crossed or hybridized with one another. So this is typically, tiarella is a foam flower, heuchera is a alum root, and so this one's called pumpkin spice. So I love that color. When I saw it, I was like, ooh, that's going to really play nicely against the cedar tones here. And then I went with this Ethereum. This is a type of fern. This is the Japanese painted fern. Now this does redden up actually. And that purple red color I think plays very nicely with some of the plantings over here that we have, like the Physocarpus, the Euonymus and the Verbenas and the viburnums and things along those lines. So, but what I like about the painted ferns is that it has this nice greenish blue color to it. So I think, again, it works really nicely with the house and the outside plantings. I found this one and I wasn't quite sure whether it would work or not. This is a Rudbeckia. So if you think about brown-eyed or black-eyed Susans, this is a black-eyed Susan called Cherry Balm. So it has that kind of deep red color. And I did get a pennisetum. It's a type of grass. Actually, I think that was changed over into a new genus, and it hasn't come in yet. So it's a plant that has a tall stature and gets like this kind of creamy ecru color inflorescence that I think would play really nicely. In the meantime, I kind of dug out a little blue stem grass. So this might be a cultivar. I can't quite recall. I dug it out of the memorial garden that we have up here. But I wanted to bring it out because look at these colors. They're so outstanding. I mean, this kind of raspberry turns into like this lavender color with some dips of blue and green. I mean, it just looks so painterly. And I do think this is too matchy-matchy for what I want to do because it does play nicely with those colors, but it's almost too muted. And you could see that it kind of falls too much into the color palette of the home here. But I'm going to use this as a holdover plant to kind of put into this planter because I don't have the one that has come in yet. And I found a nice supplement that was in the meadow this morning, but it's too rooted into the ground, so I wasn't going to dig that one out. So this one kind of popped out really easily. But I think even the Mexican feathergrass that I had planted over there would actually complement a little bit better because it's a warmer tone that would pop off the house. So I just want you to know that this is probably going to be removed and planted back into the bed. But for our intents and purposes of planting this up today and kind of making it feel homey out here, that's what I'm going to do. Now, this one's much smaller than this one. So I think what I'm going to do, and I like these are pretty lightweight, so they're easily movable. They do have a drainage hole on the bottom, which is critical. You might even want to put more than that drainage hole in here. But what I'm going to do is take this broken pot. This is one of the pots that got broken from just all the construction that's happening. And then I'm just gonna take a couple pieces of wood and put that down there. You could put stones or more terracotta pots. I'm just gonna try to fill up some of that space because this is gonna need quite a bit of potting material because it is a large planter pot. And I'm gonna use some standard potting mix from Espoma Organic. But I'm actually also gonna add a little bit more perlite down in here just to get more drainage and to have it be a bit lighter. This bag was eaten by some mice in kind of the most inopportune area. It's like on the corner side, upside down. And try not to breathe this in because it is a little dusty. And again, I'm just gonna get a little bit of this perlite in there just to help with any kind of drainage because this is quite a large pot. And if you're planting and leaving that grass in, then it will get really deep roots. But the other plants, probably not so much. But you can see we've already filled up quite a bit here, which is good. Okay, let's see where we've landed. We probably still need some. But we could start placing this in. See, we still need to be a little higher up. You can see that come together. And so that will be kind of a central point because oftentimes, you know, when you're planting up a planter like this, you don't want things all the same height because each one will get lost. I mean, of course, there's some exceptions, and I came prepared with multiple bags because I was like, I don't know how much. Sometimes it's hard for me to spatially see like how much I'll need for something like this. So here's what I was thinking. You get some oranges in there, and you could also break up some of these plants if you find that they're too big. It almost just feels like fall, just that color alone. And then to bring in some of the ferns. You see what I'm saying? I love that. So I'm just gonna start taking some of these out and arranging and planting. And this will immediately make the entry point of the house, even though we're not finished with the door or anything along those lines, it's just immediately gonna start feeling like home. This is great. I mean, these are good roots here. Nothing's too pot bound. I'm gonna break those up. Very nice. We could even split this if we probably want to, but I don't think so. It's really nice and compact. This one, like I said, I pulled this one out of our garden, and this may go back in, but the color of the little blue stem really comes out in the fall, as you can see, and it gets these gorgeous red purple inflorescences that are not quite yet out. You know, they kind of look like little corn stems right here, very thin corn stems. Okay, and then we have this guy, the Ethereum, the Japanese painted fern. Let's see what the roots look like on that. Again, very nice. And the ferns will kind of hang over the edge. I'm gonna put in a little more potting medium. And that is still fairly lightweight, actually. And that's the benefit with going something like this. I mean, I really do love terracotta as well, but the issue with terracotta is if you start to get larger and larger, it gets more and more difficult to actually move, or even like ceramic. So these metal urns, when I saw them, I was like, ooh, that seems like a really good option right there. And then let's get some of these in. And I kind of want them out this way. This one's kind of tumbling over like that. And aside for the grass, most of these plants here are actually don't mind being in the shade. So that's another thing that you have to kind of think about. You know, this is under the awning. It does get some western sunlight, which is really nice, but it is under the awning of the house and it will be somewhat shaded and protected. And sometimes this heucheras in general, this is a heucherella, so I don't know how this fares, but sometimes it needs a little bit more sun to keep that reddish orange color. So we'll have to see, you know, how it does throughout the years. And these are perennial, so it's not like I'm planting annuals in here and they won't come back. These are perennials, and, you know, granted they're not planted in the ground, so we'll have to see if they weather the winter. But, you know, a lot of times folks will plant annuals in their ornamental, like, urns and decorative urns and things along those lines in order to, you know, have a change up every year. I like the fact that these are perennial and that they'll come back and that you could actually cut them back. So that's looking pretty festive right now. I might put one more, might squeeze one more fern back there. I'm just going to try to fit in the potting medium around the edges. And if you had any potting medium showing here, well, you could put like some kind of decorative or mulched fir bark top onto it. But I don't think we'll need that here because the plants pretty much fill out the whole decorative urn. We almost have the hose working here. I mean, but we're approaching winter, so we'd have to be turning the hose on and off. But pretty soon, you know, we will have a working hose here, so it'll be easier for me to water things in. Another plant that would look really nice in here, I think, would be, and that would look really festive, would be Gaultheria procumbens, which is wintergreen. The wintergreens up near the common house right now are just blushing red, kind of a red purple, and it looks so beautiful. But I kind of wanted to bring in a bit more orange that these heucherellas provide because of the choice that we made with going with a kind of that cedar color with this blue-green paint. And again, I'm going to have to pull this grass out, and I'll show you what that looks like after I do that. Just that the grass that I ordered hadn't come in yet. You kind of can't get away from the seam, unfortunately, here on the metal urn. It's like in every third of the urn. Oh yeah, I really like that. And so you could see that if I had like a whiter grass or a creamier color, it would actually pull in some of this color and then also stand out against the color of the house. So I didn't want to go too matchy-matchy, though that would look great in a garden, I'd have to say. All right, so let's wing this one because I have these 5 left. Obviously, we can't fit all in. I over-ordered slightly because, well, I figured I'd rather over-order and have extra and then plant it into the landscape, and which would be nice because if you're planting it into the landscape, then you have some symmetry. You have some of that color palette and the same plants. It's like the conversation is happening between the house and the outside. And even if you could get some of that color palette inside, then you'll feel like there's a conversation happening. There's some fluidity happening from the outside in. So I think we'll go with this Rudbeckia because we didn't use the Rudbeckia at first. This one still has a nice potting medium in. And this could maybe be, I don't know if it'll be central or if we could just push it off to the side. That might be another option because it's not very large. And so it might actually be better if we just kind of have this like little menagerie of plants. This one's very beautiful. Look at that color on this one. Right? It might just be these 3 plants like that. That's actually not that bad. I'd lift this one up a little bit more. I don't know if this stays small or if it actually increases in height, because you could get some pretty tall rudbeckia. So I'm gonna just add a little more here. And the roots are really nice here. So I got these in a place online that I've shopped at before, and they just have such nice, large, full plants called Sherwood Growers. So I'll share that with you. Really wonderful nursery. And they have some really interesting varieties that are, primarily cultivated varieties. So maybe it's not somebody you would go to for straight species, but these are really nice for, some of your ornamental beds or decorative plantings. And they're not the same size, so you may decide on putting them, sometimes folks would put them on stairwells going down, so you might have the big one closest and then the smaller one down on another step. We eventually will get maybe a little table here, a little cedar table that will be next to the awesome rocker here. And then I'm thinking of like a long bucket bench, like a cedar bucket bench that you could just sit down, kick off your shoes. Bucket benches were used to use in old farmhouses where they'd bring the water in that they'd heat, that they'd take their bath in, or that they use for cooking or things like that, and they would set the bucket down on the bucket bench. So I think having something like that would be really beautiful, and then you'd have like these planters kind of somewhere in the mix. So whether they end up here, I'm not quite sure, but I really like having plants that will greet you on the way in, and again, starts making it feel a bit more homey. So as we start to finish this house, we'll start to do more and more things like this, but I think it already gives it a little bit of warmth, despite the fact that everything is still in disarray here.
Thanks for taking time to watch this video. And if you're enjoying our videos, consider liking, subscribing, hitting the notifications bell, and even tipping. We are reinvesting 10% of our Google AdSense revenue back into projects here in the Finger Lakes community, so your support of this channel goes a long way. We'll see you in the next video.